Welcome to Spirit Grooves. My name is Michael Erlewine. Today we're going to look at some of the problems that come up when we begin to try to develop our awareness, and a few other things that are worth keeping in mind. Most of this comes out of the almost 40 years that I've been working with and under the direction of Tibetan Buddhists. It's quite easy to stain your practice through not wanting to do it. And the delinquency that quite naturally comes up every time we think of practicing, then, a good feeling does not come to mind. We don't feel like practicing. So we poison our own mind stream. It's very common to stain the practice, to stain our practice until we no longer really want to do it, and we just don't. This is a serious obstacle to meditation practice. Now let's talk about taking the temperature of the mind. There's a bonus for those of us who meditate, even if it is a very short session, if we do it at the same time every day. A meditation session offers us a chance to quickly take our mental temperature. I was surprised at how often I don't even know how wild my mind is, how upset or crazy I'm feeling. But even a minute or so of trying to meditate shows me immediately how fast my mind is moving, how distracted I am, and how far away I am from being able to let the mind just naturally rest. On other days, it's clear that my mind is moving gently, and it's much easier to practice meditation. So this can be a great help, especially if you're about to head into a meeting or off to some event where you're required to be there 100%. I find it better to reschedule the meeting than to try to do anything that requires patience or understanding when I have neither of them. Anyway, that's just my experience. Rest and relax like a bundle of straw. It took me many, many years to understand that when the meditation instructions said to let the mind rest, they meant the same kind of rest that you and I mean when we use the term R&R, like actually rest and take it easy. In fact, the tradition has a wonderful analogy as to how you are supposed to sit and how you're supposed to naturally relax. So I'll give it to you. The body should rest loose, like a bundle of straw whose cord has been cut. It's a perfect analogy. If you have ever seen one of those old-style bundles of straw sitting upright with a single cord at the center holding the bundle together, if you gently stick a knife blade under the cord and sever it, the straw doesn't just fly all over the place, but instead it almost imperceptibly just slumps or relaxes completely, like a sigh. I've seen this myself, and we need to let our poor bodies just let go and relax after making them as straight as we can. That is the appropriate way to position the body for practicing meditation. So sit up straight and then relax as you can. Allow the mind to rest. It's not just our bodies, but rather our minds that ultimately must rest. And we don't rest our mind, like forcing our mind to rest willfully. Just try it. It doesn't work that way. Instead, we learn to allow our mind to rest naturally, like it does when we're not paying any attention to it. We already know how to let the mind rest, but just not consciously. Consciously allowing our mind to rest naturally is something that's what we learn to do in meditation. In fact, beginning meditation practitioners soon learn that trying to get the mind to do anything at all usually backfires. It's like those old magnet dogs I had as a kid that had opposing fields. Trying to push them together just made them fly apart. A great analogy that the Tibetan teachers use is that of a bird in a cage. If you lock a wild bird in a cage in a room, all it thinks about is how to get out and escape. But if you take the same bird and leave the cage door open, as often as not, at night, it will voluntarily return to the cage just because it's safe and there's food. Well, the mind is like that. You and I can't force it to do anything, no matter how willful we get. But if we will relax and just allow it to be itself, it will naturally just rest. Trying to force our mind to concentrate on the object of meditation just sends it in the opposite direction. However, allowing the mind to rest naturally, it will just gently rest on whatever object we wish. This is what learning meditation is all about. The mind is the wish-fulfilling jewel, is what the Tibetans say. Now, I've done many things in my life in an attempt to be of some possible use. I could list them, but it's not important. The bottom line is that after all these years, after many years and great effort, I've come to the conclusion that of all things of possible use, training the mind is at the very tip of the top of that list. You know, we can lose an arm or a leg and still have what we call a life. But if we lose our mind, we no longer have much in the way of a life. If you think about it, our mind is our most important possession. That's why the Tibetan Buddhists call the mind the wish-fulfilling jewel, or sometimes just precious jewel. When I was young, I went out of my way to alter the mind in any way that I could, by alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, and various drugs, anything but a straight mind. As I grew older, those mind-altering substances dropped away one by one, until today I alter my mind only by food and nutritional supplements. A clear and insightful mind is the most precious thing I have. In other words, the mind cannot be improved by altering it with substances. However, it can be trained, which is what meditation's all about. Aspiration and dedication. Before I go on, I need to tell you of one very important part of meditation practice that you need to know about. In fact, many Tibetans would say this is the most important point of all, so please listen with care. The Tibetans tell us that it's most important to dedicate any merit that comes out of our daily practice, no matter how small. I did not do this in the beginning because I could not imagine any good merit whatsoever that was coming out of my dismal practice. But the Tibetans feel otherwise. They assure me that there is merit in any practice, if only because of the good intent, if not for the results themselves. It is so easy to do. At the end of any meditation practice period, we simply say a little dedication. You can call it a prayer if you wish. And this is the effect of it. May any merit of this practice, however small it is, be dedicated that all sentient beings may find true happiness and awareness. That's it. This short wish, this dedication is said to, like the proverbial acorn, grow over time into an enormous amount of merit. In a similar way, saying a brief aspiration to the same effect when we begin our meditation practice is also beneficial. In that case, we would say something like this: May what I am about to do benefit all sentient beings and bring them happiness and awareness such as the Buddha found. It should be something like that. If you scour the books on Tibetan meditation, there's no single factor that the High Lamas feel is as important as making the proper aspiration and dedication prayers. To them, they are the difference between advancing in awareness and just sitting there spinning our wheels. And I tried it out. Since I'm a computer programmer, I frequently spend entire days glued to a computer monitor in real concentration. So I thought I would try this out. Every time in my daily work, when I would be interrupted, when the phone would ring, a car would backfire outside somewhere down the block, or something or someone would interrupt my work, instead of being irritated by the interruption, I would do the following. Since I was already startled and already fully out of my concentration, this was a natural gap in time to make a dedication. So I would then dedicate any merit that I had accrued from my concentrated work up to that point to all sentient beings and so on, as described above. I would make this short prayer and then gently let my mind rest in the gap that was created by the interruption. Then I would make a short aspiration to start again for the work I was about to do, and then get back to work. The next time I was interrupted, I would do the same thing, and this went on all day. I would do perhaps hundreds of these little interruptions throughout the day. I did this for almost 3 years. It made a big difference, and it paved the way for me to do more practice aside from the time I spend sitting on the cushion. It was a key to getting real results. The two accumulations. Another important concept to have in mind are what the Tibetan Buddhists call the two accumulations, and they are merit and awareness. The two work together and are well worth understanding. We are meditating in order to develop greater awareness. The Sanskrit word Buddha itself means to awaken, and it could be translated to something like the one who has awakened or the one who is aware. Merit refers to what the Buddhists call skillful means, skillful action. The two words, merit and awareness, work together in a recursive manner, like an infinite catch-22. And here's how I understand that works. When we actually learn to meditate and begin to develop a little more awareness than what we now have, that awareness itself allows us to see a little more clearly around us how to act. In that greater awareness, we can act more skillfully, more meritoriously, and the merit of our more skillful action itself generates even greater awareness. That greater awareness allows us to see even more clearly yet, and in that clarity we can see to act even more skillfully yet ad infinitum. Awareness makes skillful actions easier, and more skillful actions generate even more awareness, and so it goes. These are called the two accumulations, and they each allow the other to reach higher levels. There's a snowball effect that has an exponential curve. I hope you get the idea. The more awareness you have, the better you can see around to make the most skillful action possible. And the more skillful the execution of an act, the more awareness and space around us it creates. These two feed on each other recursively. In other words, the relative skillfulness of our every action in the present moment somehow generates something like an aura or space around it, which is the awareness mentioned here. And in that awareness or expanded time and space, we can see more clearly to make decisions and to take action than we would otherwise. Therefore, we can make ever better and better actions, and the skill of our execution, our skillful means generates ever greater clarity and awareness, and so on, each allowing the other to reach new levels. This is what I understand that merit and awareness is all about. Mixing meditation with what you know. What I'm going to present now is a little bit advanced, and it may not be everyone's cup of tea. However, some of you may find it useful enough. Beginning meditation is hard for many of us. It's hard to find the time, and it's sometimes difficult to actually practice. And often the time each day that we have available is minimal. We all wish we had more time to practice. Yet I'm surprised at myself how clever I am in postponing and getting out of my daily meditation practice. In these respects, I'm a genius, just not in any useful ways. And there's another issue. I was raised Catholic, and I went to church for an hour each Sunday, whether I liked it or not, and mostly I didn't like it. The simple truth is that an hour a week will never be enough to save me or to get someone like myself to heaven. I am way too much of a black sheep for that, and the same goes with meditation. Even meditating for a half hour a day or an hour is sometimes hard for me to squeeze into my schedule. And that much meditation is still not strong enough practice for me to really benefit greatly from. I'm not putting down small practices. I'm just pointing out that the balance between time needed and time spent for meditation is disproportionate. Probably the most I ever practiced was a commitment of 2 hours a day for 2 years while taking a Mahamudra course from His Eminence Tai Situ Rinpoche. 2 hours was a lot to squeeze out of my schedule each day. But even worse was that I did not like forcing myself to practice that long. I gradually built up an approach avoidance reaction to sitting, and that's a dangerous cycle. After a while, if I even thought of that 2-hour requirement that I had to do sometime that day, I would have an adverse reaction. Using simple mental feng shui, my own practice became an obstacle to my practice. I had stained my practice by not liking to do it. Certainly, I was not being skillful with my old delinquent self. I should have known better than to make that commitment. And there's another way to do a lot of practice in a relatively painless way, and here it is. This may be only useful to those of you who have managed in your lives to acquire some skill or discipline that itself requires concentration and the muscle memory that goes with it. For example, it could be like a skill like fly tying that fishermen do, or playing a musical instrument, playing a game of chess, whatever. My point is that it must be a skill where you have already paid your dues and learned, and it must be something you like to do, or at least are a little joyful about. Simply begin to apply this same meditation technique to your favorite skill. So what does that mean? It means while you are concentrating using the skill, when you become distracted or interrupted, just like in meditation, whether by your own daydreaming or some outside interruption, like a phone call, just do the same thing you would do when meditating on a cushion. Be aware that you've lost concentration and gently bring your mind back to rest on the job at hand and just continue as you were. Every time you're interrupted, do the same thing. This can go on all day, as long as you want. You will be logging meditation practice hours just as you would if you were sitting on a cushion. I was surprised at how much practice time I actually was able to get in each day. And don't forget to dedicate the merit. This idea itself came from a remark that my meditation teacher said to a group of us at a teaching, something to the effect that he said, "Those of you who work on a computer for long periods of time may have an advantage because you already have learned to concentrate." Of course, the light bulb just went off in my head because I did that all day, almost every day. So I tried mixing my mind training with other areas of my life where concentration was involved, and it really worked. Whatever amount of on-the-cushion time that we can manage to squeeze into our busy schedule is all for the good. But you and I both know that we are often much more attached to our distractions than we are to our sitting practice. At least it would appear that way from my actions on any given day. As pointed out, there is another way around this problem, and it involves mixing our mind training with our work throughout the day. It's often called off-the-cushion or post-meditation time. Mixing my mind training with any concentrated task throughout the day has probably been the single best thing that I've done to improve my awareness. I hope you have enjoyed this segment of Spirit Grooves. If you'd like to read further on awareness, please see my free ebooks on astrologyland.com. Look for the book link in the middle of the page. My name is Michael Erlewine, and I curate what is probably the largest library of astrology in the world, the Heart Center Library. I hope you have enjoyed this segment of Spirit Grooves, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.